You're listening to the Left Behind Game Club.
Welcome to Left Behind Game Club. It's our never-ending attempt to make sure that no game is left behind. I'm your host, Jacob McCourt, and with me, two esteemed guests. We start with Mo. Mo, tell the people who you are.
What's up? My name is Mo. I'm a developer, games at night, web development during the day, gamer at heart, our favorite word that we love to share. And yeah, that's me.
And Mike.
Hi, I'm Mike, and I love video games. The end.
Anything else at the end?
That's the end of the podcast.
So animated before. So much more animated. I miss podcast 1, Mike.
For those of you who didn't check out our first episode, you can find that at leftbehindgame.club, #alwaysbeplugin. My name is, as I said, Jacob McCourt, and I'm an aspiring radio personality, so that's why I'm here. The game is Shadow of the Colossus. The first episode covered the first half of the game. We are now talking about the second half of the game, so the last 8 Colossi. If you haven't checked out that first episode, I gave you those instructions on how to do that. But let's just start talking about the back half of Shadow of the Colossus. Mike, I know that you just finished the game minutes before we started podcasting.
Holy cow.
So much emotion.
Oh my god. I just...
Can you use more words?
Okay, let me try and articulate this like an adult. Everything became clear why everyone I have talked to that has played the game has like such reverence for it. Why Mo has a shrine built in his house in one of his closets to Shadow of the Colossus.
A replica.
Yeah.
A replica of each Colossi.
Yeah.
Not really, but I wish. That's a good idea. Noted.
I understand now because that game ends on such a high note, and I think it glosses over a lot of the pain points that you have throughout the game and makes them feel like they were all kind of worth it in the end. I don't know where you want to start this. Where do you want to start this discussion?
Well, I think, should we go over... Last time we did the whole, what was like the most memorable, I guess, Colossi. But before that, like, when we first played those first 8 in that last podcast, and you guys were kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of slow. I don't see the kind of the hype just initially. I kind of almost was convinced, like, hey, maybe this isn't even like that sweet of a game. But then the back half of the Colossi happened, as you've seen, Mike.
Yeah.
And it kind of was like, this is why, which I completely forgot, because the first half, I guess, wasn't as crazy, but that second half, we picked things up quite a bit. You've noticed all the Colossi happened.
And I have the opposite opinion where I'm actually super like sour on the game after the back half.
No way.
But I'll get into... Yeah, well, you know how happy I was after I played the first one, then I talked to you guys.
Yeah.
But to kind of sum up my thought, and we can go into it a little further, I think Shadow of the Colossus is a great 5-hour game that is 10 hours.
What do you think made it so long for you, I guess? What was the worst part about it for you, I guess?
So I'll tell you that, and then I want to ask Mike a question. But for me, it's just like the middle Colossi, like from 9 to 13. Like there's a lot of forgettable Colossi. Just like, you remember how like I could go through and be like, yeah, there was the water one, there was the flying one, there was the first time you went up against the small Colossi. Like there's those milestone moments.
Yep.
But in the back half of the game, apart from the penultimate and the ultimate Colossi, I can't really remember with certainty what happened from 9 to 14.
Okay.
I gotta refresh my memory as to which ones they were.
I have a little bit of a bias in that I just completed these last 8 over the past day or two. So I remember them very well.
Okay.
But the ones that stick out in my mind... Do
you want to tell us why that you had to play them all like in the last day though, Mike?
One, because I'm bad at planning. 2, because my quest to be Division 1 on FIFA 18 is never ending. And it was within my grasp. So I needed to put some good FIFA time in. I was also ranking up in Rocket League. So there are a lot of other games that needed my attention. But mostly because my PS2 decided that it was big, fat, and old and needed to just conk out on me. So I spent most of last night and a good chunk of this morning tearing apart an old, fat PS2 and then realized that it was a memory card issue. And so I was able to get it all nice and fixed. But let me get into the different Colossi and why I find them memorable.
Sure.
Okay.
So, one, I think any Colossi that you end up flying is like super interesting and intense.
I know exactly where you're going with this.
Right? So there's the biggest Colossi, I think, in the whole game. And they fly. It's the sand one. It's the guy that doesn't bother you at all. Does not attack you at all. Which makes you feel extra bad. And it's... I think he's Colossi 13, 12, 13, somewhere around there. Where
Yeah, I just pulled it up. It's the 13th one. The one where he's running away from you the whole time.
Exactly. And so you just have to shoot your arrows into his white pouches underneath him, and then his fins go down, and then you climb up his little fins and land on his back, and then just start stabbing him. But the thing that I think it brought me back to that first one that you end up flying on the Colossi over the lake, and you get that rush, that sense. And I felt that again when this gigantic Colossi was doing barrel rolls with me on top.
Yeah.
So there's that one. There's two Colossi that are like bulls.
The small ones.
Yeah, the smaller ones. I was kind of impressed the first time I saw these like small Colossi, because I was like, that's not Colossus. That's not gigantic. And then I, had the fight with them. There's the ones that look like the first Colossi, number 15.
Do you want to go like the one by one? We can kind of go through like which,
sure,
if they're kind of terrible in Jake's point of view, or like maybe we can kind of figure out why they're kind of okay. Because like if we go by like the 9th one, because I have it pulled up here, like so we can go through it. The 9th one was the one where I for the first time out of all of them, I used the horse.
Oh, the turtle around. Dude.
Yeah, the guy you flip over.
Yeah, I hated that one at first.
Yeah, I remember when I first played this game. So just like a quick summary from before, I played this game maybe a year after it first came out back on PS2. And this guy, I just kept firing arrows for days. Every time I played the game, just fire arrows. They had no idea what I was supposed to do, just running around with him. And didn't really realize that you had to use those geysers. And the first time he lifts up, you see those glowing feet.
Yeah.
You just know, okay, I have a method of taking him down. Because some of the Colossi, you see it right away. Other ones, there's no way. There's no way you can figure it out. With that one, you see those feet, and he tumbles over, and pretty much quick and easy. This one, I understand Jake's point of view. It's not really that memorable, but for me, the only reason it was memorable was because it did take so long, and I finally flipped him.
See, I was frustrated with that guy because I couldn't get him to go over a geyser. I got him to walk right up to it, but not step over it. And so I thought I was doing something seriously wrong, so I looked it up on a wiki, and it's like, no, just keep doing that. You'll get him. And I was like, okay.
Mine was pure accidental when I first did it, but just like with before, if the Colossi took me a long time way back when, I remembered exactly how to take it down this time, so I kind of had that kind of upper hand. So but I see what you're saying. I do remember it taking me a long time before when I initially played.
Yeah, it took me like 5 attempts to make sure I got it right. And for me, it's from like Colossus, the 9th one, to like the 12th one. I had to look up facts for each one of them. Like I said, I'm not really good at games, so that's more of a me problem than an actual problem with the game. But for that kind of turtley 9th one, my issue was like the preciseness of the control really made it hard to get around fast enough. And I think the horse controls really upset me there, just because like the best way to get on your horse, and I'm nitpicking, like I fully am aware that I'm nitpicking a small issue here, but like to get on your horse, the best way is to like totally stop and then wait like 2 seconds and then hit the button and get on your horse. I just got really frustrated with like how loose the controls were, and that's my complaint with a lot of the back half of the game is like in your mind you want the your avatar in the game to do one thing and do it very precisely. But for me, the looseness of the controls sometimes made it difficult, for me at least, to have the avatar do exactly what I wanted it to do.
I agree. I agree the controls were a big issue. But a lot of the struggles that I had with the controls, as soon as those final credits finished up, I almost feel like I discounted all of those issues that I had, and that they were all worth it by the end. It just paid off in a way that I wasn't quite expecting. There's... Mo, do you want to keep going through the different Colossi?
So the next one is the 10th one. That's the one, the sandworm,
so
kind of like the water one. Yeah, he was pretty cool, but like at the same time, these are the ones I kind of don't like that much. Like the water one, I don't like that much, and the sand one, just personal preference. I think just because when I first played it, I wasn't a big fan of snakes. So the fact that there's one that's the size of like a commercial freight train,
and
that kind of like freaked me out. Yeah, and right now I'm fine with snakes, but at the same time, it's just that like nostalgic fear that I had. It still exists. You
didn't like the water one, the dude who shoots lightning bolts at you?
No, because like in my head as a child, as soon as I saw that, I'm like, there has to be gigantic water snakes that exist that are going to shoot lightning bolts at me in real life.
And see, that was one of my favorites.
Yeah, it was unreasonable, but see, that's the thing. It's a different point of view, and I still to this day don't really like these guys. Even though I love snakes now, but at the same time. Back then, this guy freaked me out, especially in the sand.
I liked him. I thought the puzzle design was interesting, and I mean, I felt good because I solved it pretty quickly. And I didn't need to look it up on a wiki, so maybe that's why I also like him.
I gotcha.
But I also really like the turtle dude who you have to hit the little teeth on his head to make him go in different directions and land on a different platform, who shoots lightning.
That guy was pretty cool. That one I think is not the next one, but the one after it. Yeah. Any other opinions on the sand snake?
I mean, the eyes are very memorable. Like, that is one of the things that I'll look back and be like, if I close my eyes and I'm still thinking about Shadow of the Colossus, like the probably 2 or 3 things that I'll remember is the flying one coming down at me for the first time, and then probably this one's eyes, and then the last one. Like, that's what I'll remember.
Okay, gotcha. So maybe I'm belaboring the point here, but do the eyes of that Colossi not remind you of like Majora's Mask, the moon looking down? Do you know? Anyone?
Yeah, I guess kind of. I hadn't really thought of it that way. To me, like, the only one where I was like, that looks like a character that I know. Like, the last Colossi reminded me of, like, the Iron Giant when he, like,
for sure
grabs you and puts you in his hand. I'm like, oh, that's the Iron Giant. But apart from that, I didn't notice until you said it.
I've been getting, like, serious Zelda vibes from this game.
Oh, it's the sword and the arrows.
Yeah, the sword.
I get like Chinese dragon from that, like, you know, the stereotypical Chinese dragon in horoscopes. Like, that's what I think of when I see the.
What are you trying to say, Jacob? Trying to say that all dragons look alike?
Whoa, Jacob, come on now. Uncomfortable, don't know what to say. Awkward goose.
Go ahead. What were you saying?
No, okay, so the next one, though, the next Colossi, sorry to jump to it, but this is the first small one. And I remember them specifically just because this one I had no idea how to beat, and the only reason I beat him the first time I played him was pure luck, because he charged me and he fell off the edge by himself.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that one was just me. Replay, died. He charged me. I hit things. I jumped on everything. Completely hit me. Whereas this time when I played it, just because I knew I did not know how to beat it and it was pure luck, I did have to look up the wiki for the first time. Because I didn't know the actual method, and I remember me just lucking out and beating him just by pure chance because he fell over and I jumped on top of him and stabbed him. So this is the first small bull for the listeners.
Right. I recognize the first time that fire was important, I didn't notice for the first 10-15 minutes that a little twig that you could light on fire also knocked out. So I spent a bunch of time luring him from one to the other, hoping that, maybe if I just had him hit all of these, it would work.
I had the twig when I was younger, but I just kept trying to hit him with it, and he'd charge me and kill me.
Right.
I'd hit walls with it, but it was so...
Your little brain didn't put twig and fire together.
Nope, not at all.
Yeah, mine didn't either. Well, I didn't realize that there was a twig that dropped, but for me, like, the thing that I'll remember there is, like, when I almost rage quitted the game because of how, like, some of those corners are really tight, right?
Yeah.
And that thing likes to charge, and if it charges at you, there's a slight chance that, like, it's going to knock you over and keep charging and kill you. So I remember, like, I was about to beat him, and I got caught in a corner because I had the camera following the Colossus instead of, like, being forward. So I ran directly into a corner, and that thing just, like, charged at me 4 times and killed me. So again, I am being so nitpicky about this game, and I have more developed thoughts, but that's one of the many things that I was just like, camera design.
Yep, camera was horrible.
We take it for granted. In this day and age.
Yep. Well, do you guys know about the L1 button locks onto the Colossi, right?
Which button?
L1.
Was it L1
left
or
bumper?
Okay.
Left bumper. If you hold on to left bumper, it always puts the Colossi in front of you, and you can kind of do like a sidestepping, strafing thing.
Yeah. I like the little bull. I thought it was interesting to fight a small Colossi like that. Change things up a bit. I did not like facing the bull when it was the 14th Colossi, or 14th or 15th.
The next small one,
yeah,
or the one with the horns with lightning bolts.
The next small one where you have to lead them to hit different pillars.
That one is my all-time least favorite.
Yeah, it was boring.
Yeah,
it was obvious.
It's terrifying. It's terrifying because you don't know what to do. It's charging at you. There's no weak points. There's no clues. That one was another one I had to look up, and I don't remember actually beating it when I was younger, but I must have because I beat the whole game. I got to the last Colossi.
I didn't. I thought it was easy. I thought it was obvious, and I just hated how long it took to do it. Because there's just so many different pillars that you have to knock down, and it's like, look, I know what I have to do here. This is not difficult to figure out. Everyone's going to know what to do here. But I guess you just have to go through the motions.
Yeah, he was alright. And then the next one after that is the...
So I just want to make about the 14th. I got pinned on this one, so I got to like 75% done and then got killed and had to do that whole like tower fall thing again. And like, to me, I don't understand from a game design perspective why that whole thing exists. To me, that's like, why do I have to go all the way across the environment to do that? Like, to me, that's like, oh, I do it once, I do it twice, that's cool, I solved this. To me, it just, the whole, like, how many towers do you need to knock over? Like 8? It just seemed excessive.
Yep.
And it just seemed like it was fat that had no bearing on the storytelling, not even the storytelling within the battle itself. So I just thought, why is that here?
It's so funny that you say that, like, you feel that it was a great game that had too much in it, that there was a lot of stuffing, because there was so much of this game that was cut. There was
really?
Yeah, there's another, I think 8 Colossi that were cut.
What?
Yeah. There were a bunch of modders that went in and found a whole bunch of unused assets.
Cool.
Which I'm wondering if they're going to restore some of those for...
Yeah, that's pre-DLC era.
Yeah. So there was a devil, a griffin, a spider, a phoenix, something that looked like a pig.
That's so cool.
There's a spider and a worm.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
cool.
Which I think, is kind of interesting that you say it was too much busy work for you, because it seems like if they had their way, there would have been a whole lot more.
Oh, you want to know something funny? So I'm looking at this wiki right now, and it has those names, the devil, griffin, monkeys. But for this whole time, ever since I've been looking at this wiki, I thought those were just nicknames for this specific Colossi, not realizing it doesn't change.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
Nick
looking at them now.
when he was at Kotaku, did a great story on why it's the perfect length. Why if they had fit those extra 8 in, it wouldn't have been as good. Which, for those listening at home, Nick Sutner used to be at 1UP, and now I think works for PlayStation.
Yeah, I think you're right. He's at PlayStation. Yeah, I guess I just think of like, and I don't think it's a fair comparison to compare it to something like, and bad examples, but I thought of like Gone Home, and I thought of like Arkham City, Arkham Knight. Totally different games, but just let me get to my point before you tell me what are you talking about. To me, every single thing that was in Gone Home had a place. There wasn't a single piece of paper that didn't fit and didn't add to the story. Same thing with like Arkham City, Arkham Knight. Every take the Riddler trophies out of it, but like every single side quest like progressed a story. And I just think that when you think of the structure of Shadow of the Colossus, and you go from like the first time you face someone in the sand, in the water, a flying beast, there's just that middle part from like I said, 9 to 14, where there's a lot of repetition or there's a lot of fat. And like when you get to 15 and 16, I think those two Colossi are great, because 15 it brings you back to the first Colossi, and there's almost like a multi-step defeating process with like on the actual Colossus itself. So like you have to go from like his arm or from his head to his arm, and like that's cool. And then the last Colossi, like to have to do what you did there, like that's totally different. It's a totally different ball game.
Totally.
But I find from like 13, it just ramps hard. Like 15 is such a multi-step, multi-layer battle, and 16 is just something that's completely different. I just think that there's fat in here that potentially needs to be cut, but I do look forward to reading Nick Sutner's take on it, because that's just my take. You guys seem to have really enjoyed the length and the kind of back half of it.
I agree with you that 15 and 16 were both big steps up. I found that the issues that I had with those were little things that were frustrating that would have been smoothed out in Q&A. Like I for number 15, the giant, similar to the first one that you face, who's a little bit more aggressive. I thought it was pretty easy to like figure out what I had to do, have him step on this plate, jump up, have him swing and knock down some blocks, get on top, get to a bridge, jump on his head, stab, stab, stab. I thought that was easy. It was figuring out that last little bit to make him drop his cleaver, and then
that takes forever to figure out.
Yeah.
Well, for me at least.
For me, the thing that took the absolute longest was figuring out how to then stab his hand once he drops the cleaver. As dumb as that might sound. For some reason, I couldn't figure out the right distance to make him swing with his hand versus step with his foot. And then have him stand there enough, because every time he slammed his fist down, I would run up and start swinging my sword, and then he'd pull it away, and I'd realize I'd do no damage. And I just kept thinking to myself, like, this should be working. I don't know why it's not. And then I had a bright idea to try and grab onto his palm and see if I could ride up with it. And voila, I figured out the final little twist of that boss. But 16, I rage quit twice.
No way.
Yeah, I rage quit twice.
I did too.
The getting to the Colossi was the toughest part of that whole battle. Because I don't know about you guys, I think I did the roll move maybe once or twice the whole game leading up to it. And I don't feel that they had enough design breadcrumbs throughout the game that would like force you to learn that skill. But I definitely realized that skill was necessary to get to the Colossi so you weren't shot.
Mike, why don't you explain what the 16th, I guess, Colossi really looks like and why he's so tricky.
For sure.
Lead up to him.
So Jake outlined that the 16th Colossi looks like the Iron Giant, and I could not agree more. That's very much what I thought.
What is the Iron Giant?
The Iron Giant is a tall robot standing out of the ground. And in the case of Colossi number 16, it seems like his feet are stuck in the ground because he doesn't step towards you or move. He's sort of like a giant turret with arms for cannons, and he shoots very quickly these high-powered lightning bolts at you. And the first part of the boss, or the Colossi, is to run through from cover to cover, down tunnels and around edges and ledges to get up close to him. And then the second part is to climb him like a puzzle, and then stab, shoot an arrow, different portions of him, so that way you can get on top of his head and then finish with a nice stab.
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 Yeah, so imagine like the Daleks from Doctor Who, like bottom half, and then Iron Giant top half.
That's a good way to describe it. So for me, the absolute toughest part was that first portion of the boss, which was getting up to him before he blows you up. And I figured out very quickly how to get through the first tunnel, and then up through the second. And then there were these 3 different pieces of, I guess almost like fencing, like walls that you could hide behind that had gaps in between them that you were supposed to run from one into the other. And I was able to get from the first to the second, no problem. But from the second to the third, you had to do a roll, so that way you could get a little bit extra distance at the end of your run. And I screwed this up so many times. I realized at some point that I had to do a roll, so I started rolling first and then running out of the roll, and I would get shot. And then I thought it was just a timing issue, that I wasn't doing the timing correctly. So I tried to get him to shoot at me, and then as soon as I heard the shot go off, I would run out and make a go for it. But I guess I didn't factor in that he has 2 hands to shoot you with. So then finally at the very end, I realized that I needed to do a roll at the end of the run, to that third piece of cover. And once I had solved that, it was easy, I found, to get up the Colossi and to figure out where you needed to signal to him, because he doesn't strike me as one of the Colossi that fought to get you off the hardest. He seems like he was more interested in just looking at you and try to figure out what you were doing or what you were. But yeah, I've rage quit twice trying to get up to the Colossi. I think I messaged in one of our chats.
That's a good thing, though. I think it's good that the last 2 were as, I guess, interesting or more interesting than some of the previous ones. It made it kind of worth it at the end, I guess. I don't know. I thought. I
agree.
Yeah,
I think there's no way that I would have ended this game feeling like that was amazing if the last 2 Colossi were not maybe the most difficult.
And not to go back on the Colossi, but so for I think it was 12 and 13, those ones I thought were pretty cool. You mentioned it briefly earlier, Mike. The bull with the thunder horns, where you guide by hitting the top of his head. That was completely new. You're now in control of a Colossi.
Yeah.
That was like ridiculous. And when I played it, I'm like, there's no way. At first, I thought maybe it was like a fluke and he was just animating that way.
Right.
But no, part of defeating this guy was moving him around, making him go to a specific spot.
And I had just had my teeth cleaned that day when I was playing that boss, so all I could think was hitting these really sensitive teeth at the top of his head and having him go in that direction.
And to paint the picture, the things on top of this Colossi looks like a giant bull with like horns, but on top of his head he has like just a couple little pillars that look like the grind your teeth in your mouth. I don't know the actual word for them, but and every time you hit them they shake, and the Colossi is in so much pain that he turns. So that's where that little reference is coming from too.
Yeah, so you struggled, Mike, with the front half of defeating the last Colossi. I struggled with the back half. And my biggest struggle was when the actual Colossi, you have to go from one hand to the other. So you stab him on the arm. So it's like a multi-step thing, right? You stab him in the back, his arm comes around, you climb the left arm, you go up to the left shoulder, or rather like the left like bicep. You stab him in the bicep, and then from the bicep you have to jump from his bicep to his other hand. And to me, it was like a camera like issue, a control issue that like it took me so many tries. It was not something I could do reliably well, like transfer myself from the bicep to the right hand.
This is why.
And then that was the biggest thing of like, it was camera. It was like the angle at which the camera sits in default. It doesn't like, there's just like a depth perception issue that I was just like, I'm going to miss this jump. And I missed the jump like 80% of the time. But I have to say that, the thing took me an hour plus to beat. I'm totally okay with admitting that I'm not good at games. I like them, but I'm not good at them. But to me, all of the frustration, and I'm not trying to take away from anything I said before. I think that 9 to 14, there's a lot of fat there. But when the first time that the Colossi kind of brings his right hand up and just stares at you, because he just stares at you between when you have to shoot him in the shoulder to like have him bring you to his shoulder to get to his head, when he just stares at you and gives you that big Iron Giant moment of like, this guy means you absolutely no harm, and he's just looking at you in a puzzled sense, that to me was incredible. Like there's probably, like I said, 2 or 3 moments in the game that I'll remember the most, and that is definitely one of them, where the Colossi just pulls me up and just stares. And he doesn't stare for like 5 seconds. He will keep you there for 30 seconds if you let him.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
He's just, super curious.
Mm-hmm.
Could not agree
I did
more.
get thrown off right when I was at like a sliver of health left, so I almost whipped my controller across the room, but them's the breaks. It's not going to take away from how I feel about the last Colossi, but it definitely got me in a cranky mood for the end of the game.
One of the things that I think I mentioned last week that I didn't like the save system, that as soon as you died, you had to start all the way at the beginning again. I found in the second half that concern was taken care of. It was addressed that if you died in a Colossus battle, you would start again right at the beginning of it, or not far from it, which I thought was, that solved a big complaint of mine.
So do we talk about the end of the game now?
Let's do it. I can't wait.
Okay, end of the game.
Okay, so one, I feel vindicated, because I think I said this last week or 2 weeks ago, that it seemed pretty obvious that you were making a deal with the devil, and that like these different Colossi were there to keep him from being in power, and so what happens at the end of the game is you finish that last Colossi, and they cut away to, it seems like, I think his name was Lord Eros or something like that. Mm-hmm. Who also looked like a Legend of Zelda character with a mask on. Mm-hmm. And he's in the temple. He sees the princess, or the girl that you brought there. He says, "What have you done? I can't believe you've done this. I should have known it was you." And then you stumble across looking like a zombie. And we find out that Dormir, or Dormin, or whatever the evil voice that was talking to you was an evil demon that was trapped in 16 different pieces, and that you were tricked, and he takes over your body, and then you control this, essentially a Colossi in itself, attacking these little humans around you that are trying to take you down. And then the Lord who came on the white horse, no symbolism there, decides that he's going to
Gandalf.
He's going to take the sword of light and cast it down into this water pit and make sure that you can't get out. And it's as soon as the sword hits the water, it's like a nuke goes off, and there's a big vacuum, and you get sucked in. And one of the, I think, most potent portions of the game, you're being sucked back, but everything that seems to be taken from you is the evil spirit Dormir that's taken over your body, and all you can do is walk forward, trying to get to the girl, the princess, and then you get sucked down into this well, into this water, And all the while, all these little humans that had come to either stop you or collect the princess, we're not quite sure why they were there. They're retreating on horseback because they've effectively sealed off this place. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, but the princess wakes up. And the horse, your horsey, Argo or Agro.
The horsey. Yeah. We didn't talk about him.
The horsey. I can't believe, one, they killed the horsey. And then two, they bring the horsey back. It really hurt.
With a little limp. Yeah. Oh, it was the cutest little limp.
I think we can all agree that no horse is surviving from that fall.
Yeah.
So
no horse left behind?
No horse left behind.
Right?
No horse left behind. We have the subtitle for this episode, boys. No horse left behind.
No horse left behind. That's not really even a spoiler, I guess, either. I guess this whole podcast is a spoiler for the game.
It's better than Baby Killer.
Yeah. Jacob McCourt, Baby Killer.
Stop it.
.com.club.io.
So the horse comes, the princess is alive.
The horse comes, the princess is alive. You feel this, feel good, oh man, maybe everything will be okay. And then the princess goes down to where this sword hit the water and finds little baby you, I imagine.
I think so.
I assume it's a baby version of you, and she picks you up, or picks up this baby, and then the humans that came across leave, and the bridge that you see the whole game that leads out into the outside world crumbles, and the Lord says something along the lines of, I hope that no one is able to get in here again, and that this land stays sealed off. And then the princess and a little deer, Bambi, they have a good little frolic. And then I think that's about it. I mean, you see a hawk fly around.
This is a prequel to Ico. Oh, wow.
Is it really?
Okay. Yeah, that's the whole thing about this.
Really? I haven't played Ico.
So I haven't either, but I recognize the. Just hear me out here. So
okay,
I worked in a game store for a long time, and there are some game boxes that I distinctly remember. And the Ico, some people call it Ico. There was also Echo the Dolphin, which came out at the same time, but we're going to leave that alone. But it's that main character with the horns who's, I think, dragging a girl behind him.
Yorda.
And I immediately... Yorda?
Yorda is the girl.
So Yorda behind him, and that's distinctly what I remember is there is a child with horns. This comes from the same development team, so I think I went on to Google afterwards, is Shadow of the Colossus a prequel to Ico? And I guess it is.
That's pretty interesting. I feel like I need to play Ico now.
Do you, though?
I feel like I
don't.
I think I have to because of my love for this game.
I felt really good at the end of this game.
And maybe you can help me because I totally understand what they were going for. They're going for a storybook, very Zelda-esque, very fairy tale kind of ending, except in this case, I guess you're the bad guy. So flip it on its head and imagine that instead of, vanquishing the demon, you are vanquished as the demon. But I don't know, I just got here comes the Phantom of the Opera music, here's a guy with a mask, I don't know, now you're a beast, and it happens so fast that you're controlling a beast. Oh no, I'm controlling a beast, I have to walk forward. Do I hit the guy? How do I hit the guy? They're getting away, what's going on?
Really
and
is.
Then by the time the sucking happened, the sword being thrown into the I don't know what you call it, into the water source or into the
pit.
What was that? I got in the pit when I got thrown into that. And when you start getting pulled back for the whole thing to be sealed off, I was just I'm done. Letting it struggle and struggle, it reminded me of the end of Spec Ops: The Line, where
Don't
spoilers
spoil
for
it.
anyone. Do I
Don't
not? Okay.
do it.
Okay, I won't do it. But Spec Ops: The Line has a very similar kind of mechanic in the end, where I can't explain it, but it has like, it reminded me of Spec Ops: The Line, and I really like Spec Ops: The Line, but by the end of it, and maybe it was just fatigue from having done, like I did 14, 15, 16 all in one night, and having been super frustrated with the last Colossi, maybe it was my mood, but I just was like, okay, I'm going to go in the pit now. This is cool. I just didn't feel it like you guys felt it, and I understand. And my gripes with the game aren't with the ending, because I think the ending was fine. To me, it's just not memorable. When I think of memorable endings, I can name you 5 other ones that are more memorable than that.
I also get that point. I think the other thing that I would point out, though, is that in 2005, I don't think there were many games where, you know, the twist at the end is that you were the villain.
I don't know. I guess it just didn't hit me like other story endings have, and so I think of something like Journey, right? So Journey is very similar in the ending, except instead of like being a game that deals with like an unreliable narrator, in that case it's just like reaching your ultimate quest, and it's a story that's told by not only what is said but what isn't said. And I just remember how I felt after playing Journey, after playing Inside. Like I could go on, and I just felt differently. And I understand that this game now is 12 years old, but I just have felt, you know, I've felt more for game endings. Not to say that this one's bad. I don't think it's bad at all. I think I saw the twist from a mile away, and maybe that's because we have this forum to discuss things. But it was fine. It wasn't like, I'm not going to write a 1,000-word thesis about it, but it was fine.
Question.
It was fine.
Question then. Would you... Okay, this kind of is like the main question then. So we've all played it. Would you guys recommend it to someone who says, hey, I heard about that game. Should I play it? If you were asked that question, Jacob, what would you say?
Well, at this point, given that the remake is coming for PlayStation 4, I don't think there's any reason for anyone to go back to the PlayStation 2 version. Maybe the PlayStation 3 version. None of us played the PlayStation 3 version, so we can't be sure of it. Apart from being up-resed, I don't think that there's any mechanical differences with it. I would almost say wait for the PS4 version, but I would also put butts on it and say, like, but you have to like this style of game.
So I would say...
It's not a unanimous no. It's not a unanimous yes. Sorry.
I would say yes, definitely go back and play it, but I would not recommend people play it on the PS2. I'm sure that the PS3 version or remaster looks a bit better, controls a little bit better, and I imagine that the remake that's coming for the PlayStation 4 is going to have much, much tighter controls, and be better. So I would recommend it. I understand now why Sony keeps remastering it or remaking it, and it strikes me as, if you think about the way the video game business is set up, it's set up similar to most other entertainment industries, where it's easy to sequelize something, and this game doesn't have a good clear sequel point. So it's sort of like movies that were made in Hollywood in the 80s or 90s, where sequels weren't necessarily the prime objective, but it was making a great movie that could sell a lot of tickets or sell a lot of copies. It seems like if there could be a renaissance or revival of games like this that I hadn't quite thought of before, that aren't based around pumping out more sequels, but if you create a classic that you can remaster or resell over and over and over, I think that it opens up, I think, new doors that I didn't think were possible for games. And it makes a lot more sense to me now why they keep remaking it.
Well, my point of view is 100% play it. But I totally see the Jacob point of view. Wait till the remake comes out just because of the mechanics. So the mechanics, for me, I thought were fine. Just because I'm used to them. I've played them before. But I totally understand how finicky they are. The camera's kind of a little whack. But the game itself, just the fact that it's like the ultimate puzzle. You're dealing with these gigantic titan, colossi, creature, mammoth beings that no game from my memory, has ever created like an atmosphere like them when you're taking on a type of bad person or like a character. Like that's that gigantic. I can't emphasize it enough. Each one is like so unique. It's such a challenge, and each one's a little different. Some of them are like have similar like tactics to defeat them, but at the end of the day, like the fact that this came out 12 years ago, it's a definite must play if you have the PS4 and the new one comes out and it's on sale or whatever you have to do. You have to give it a shot. I don't think anything is like this. So the fact that it is so unique, I think warrants it at least a one-time playthrough. Even if you have to use the wiki to kind of speed it up. Even like if you look at any of the wikis online and they give you the little shortcuts behind them, it still makes like the experience is still there. Even if it doesn't last as long, you still get that same like story, the same feeling when you play the game. So 100% play it.
I can't believe that I feel this good after playing a game that's 12 years old.
Right?
Yep. I don't know about you, Jake, but I definitely feel like my reaction as soon as it was over was, holy cow. What a game. Funny.
As soon as the podcast connected, the first thing you were saying was, holy crap.
Because I just...
That tells you all you need to know. That's all you need to hear, pretty much.
And look, I'm not trying to be contrarian because, like, being a curmudgeon is not fun. Like, I like to like things. I'm just saying, like, for me, having played the game, am I thankful that I played it? Absolutely, because I don't think it was a waste of time at all. I think now I can talk about it when people bring it up as one of the potentially, greatest games of the generation. Some people may say it's one of the greatest games ever. I wouldn't necessarily put it in that camp. I think it's great. I think given that it's 12 years later and it still holds up, games are hard. Stories are hard. I get it. I just feel as though that there's a school of games above this one that I will always bring up, mechanically, story-wise. Like I said, I could probably name... Stories are hard, games are hard. I'm not trying to diminish what the team tried to do here, but I'm just saying that I could name 5 or 10 games that, story-wise pulled me in, and ending-wise, left me with more of my jaw on the ground compared to this one. That's all.
Cool. Well, hopefully we take a crack at them sometime soon, because I want to see what games we do check out after this one, because I think this one was a really great start.
I agree. I could not agree more.
Is there anything else from Shadow of the Colossus that you would like to cover before we close this off?
I don't know. It's the unique thing with it. It's like once you kind of go through each Colossi, once you kind of like see the whole story and it come full circle, there's not really much kind of left besides like mechanics, the story, and like your initial impression. Especially with this game, like it kind of ends the story and leaves you to interpretation. And now we have the remakes coming up. It kind of finishes itself. Yeah,
could not agree more.
All right, so that's the end of our Shadow of the Colossus, I guess, two-parter. The first 2 episodes of Left Behind Game Club. Guys, do you want to kind of talk about what we want to play next, or do we want to kind of leave that one secret for the time being?
I think we should drop it.
All right,
so.
Drop it like it's hot, because it is hot.
Yeah, so... It's hot. So Mo picked the first game. Shadow of the Colossus is one that is near and dear to his heart.
Great game, by the way.
It's pretty good.
It's closed. It's closed.
The
Shadow
best you're getting out of Jake.
On to the next one.
It's pretty good.
I'm trying.
It's pretty good.
Trying.
It's an 8.5.
This is gonna be called the Leave Jacob Behind Club soon. No, I'm just kidding. Continue on.
So my
baby
dad jokes for the win.
Yeah,
exactly.
You didn't buy that URL. Like, don't do it. Don't buy it. Don't buy the URL.
I'll leave it for all of our fans to buy.
All of them.
All the fans.
So, all my fans. So Mo picked the first game. I'm going to select the second game. So I played Gone Home for the first time ever about a month ago, and I think that it does some really cool things. So given that it's a pretty short one, I think that it's the game that we should go for next, and I've gotten the guys to agree to it. So Gone Home will be the next game that we're playing.
Here.
We will... Here.
Here.
We will provide details on Twitter at Left Behind Club. If you want to follow along, you can see everything Left Behind Game Club related at leftbehindgame.club. That's our show, guys.
Yay,
It's been a pleasure.
Shadow of the Colossus. Best game ever.
I'm really glad we did
sure.
this.
As am I, and I hope that that you listening enjoyed it as well. For Mo, Mike, and myself, Jacob, I want to thank you so much for listening, and hope to hear from you. Dang it, I can't say that. What can I say? I can say hope
see you
to
Tune
next
in for the
time.
next one. Check it out. Yeah, check out the website, our social media. We'll be posting a few games moving forward. Next one is Gone Home, and we're super excited. Actually, I'm really excited because I haven't played it, and if it comes highly recommended from Mr. McCourt, then it's already loaded to my Steam library. Let's get it going, fellas.
And hopefully we have a
that's
cool
our show.
guest.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks for listening, guys. Peace.
Bye-bye.
Bye.